Well, I'm Craig Silverman. I'm the editorial director of openfile.ca, which is a collaborative local news operation in Canada. We're venture-backed. We're now in 7 Canadian communities doing local news, and basically we invite anyone from the community to suggest a story idea, and we'll assign a freelance journalist to report it. In addition to that, I run a site called Regret the Error, and I report on errors and accuracy in journalism, and I wrote a book of the same name, and I write a weekly column for Columbia Journalism Review about that.
Cool. So is that just errors anywhere, like all across the world?
Yeah, mainly English language media, looking at the mistakes that are made, but also looking at the corrections that then result or don't result.
Cool.
And so in recent years, I'm looking more and more at the challenges of real-time verification when it comes to things like Twitter, Facebook. How do you source that material? How do you verify it? What's the right way to correct a tweet? What's the right way to deal with a Facebook wall post or a Facebook page post that had incorrect information?
Yeah, can you delete it? I've seen.
That's it. I mean, for tweets, there's been a debate recently about when you have a mistaken tweet, do you delete it? And at this point, my stance on it is that in journalism, for literally hundreds of years, we have always corrected our mistakes and we don't scrub them away. Just because we can now do that digitally, we can go and fix a blog post or we can delete a tweet. We shouldn't do that. We have to make it clear what was wrong and do our best to explain what was right and to correct it. But when we start erasing the record, we're really kind of removing things that are part of the overall story, and that's not the right way to approach it. So one person in sort of the general discussion already raised the point that, when we don't have diversity in our newsrooms, it's really hard for us to reflect diversity in our coverage, and that's really a fundamental challenge that's been there for journalism for a very long time. For a lot of times it was, we didn't have people of different classes in newsrooms. Now it's about race, it's about gender, and trying to reflect that diversity. In terms of expanding the local media infrastructure or ecosystem that's there, it's difficult because you really want to in some ways be able to scale down very small to neighborhoods. And I know for us at OpenFile, we actually tell people the smaller your story, the better. If it's something that's just happening on your street, we want to hear about it because that's sort of the need we've identified. In Canada, the papers that are suffering are the community newspapers, these local sources of information that have traditionally told you what was going on in your immediate community. Our big city dailies have lost circulation, but they're not going out of business in Canada. And so it's a very critical need, and the challenge is a significant one because you can't necessarily afford to have full-time reporters dealing with really small neighborhood issues. And community newspapers, they aren't able to support that. Online, even though there are efficiencies, you can't necessarily support that. So the question then becomes, what are the ways that the community can become involved to help you in collaboration, know about events and things like that. And so our group is really, we're looking at the difference between reporting about a local event, reporting about important information about construction locally, and the difference between that and perhaps doing local journalism and looking at what the city council member has done or what their campaign donations have been. And you need a mix of both, but only one of those can really be done by professionals reliably, and that's the journalism side of it. But the reporting and information side, well, the only way to do that well is to get people engaged. And the only way to get people engaged is to really show that you're there to work with them, that you reflect them and what they want. And so if you don't have that diversity there, it's hard to really get into the community. So we were thinking about challenges like, even if you're online, in person, should you be holding events? Should your media organization hold events to get people out there? But that doesn't really scale. So it's a fundamental challenge, and there are companies out there like Fix and Outside In that have tried to bring a technical layer to it in every blog to sort of say, here's the restaurant inspections in your area, here's the crime that happened in your area. But the automated approach hasn't really worked that well either. So somewhere along the line, we have to put the automated together with the traditional sort of journalism with the community interaction, and those three together might be the puzzle. But it's hard to get all three working well. I think just on a basic level, local events, whether it's a garage sale or something like that, that's where the community can really very easily get involved and where they're sort of have an incentive to get involved because they want people to come to their event or they want to see people at this event. They want the community to be involved in something. It's very difficult, though, when it comes to, why are our streets filled with potholes or something like that. That's not an answer that, an average citizen who's working a job and has a family to take care of is going to be able to get an answer to, and that's where we have to step in. So how do you sort of create that relationship between the two and marry them to the point that there's the community interaction in all the places that they can add value, but you can also still deliver the journalism. And it's not easy because the journalism, of course, is expensive to do. It was in the recommendation from in the night report to talk about doing kind of community groups or community summits is, I think, the exact language that they used. And that's a very open term. A community summit could be lots of different things. It could be just something that's more of a social event to get everyone out together and to have them meet your journalists. That's one thing. I know for us at Open File, we actually, our editors in each city, they go to community association meetings. They go and they meet with local community groups. That's part of their job, because the only way for these people to come to our site and suggest stories for us to report is if they know we exist. Yeah. So it's built into our existence. But a lot of other media organizations, it's very time consuming to do that work. And so do you really want to plan 2 or 3 community summits a year and put money into that and get people out there? I think a lot of media organizations have said, we just can't really do that. But I know from our experience, the in-person stuff is really invaluable. When you're trying to do very local reporting, people have to know your face, or else they just don't trust you as much.